What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about what to expect from King Charles III. And this question really, I think, it hits hard for me. It really applies to me. Because as an American, and particularly as an American who has never really paid that close of attention to the royal family and how everything is ran and works up until very recently. I really have no concept or idea of who Charles is as a person, his actions and demeanor in the past. People in the UK, I imagine, at least have something to go on based on their perception and the things and the decisions and actions that Charles has carried out in the past. You can make somewhat of a judgment call on what he might be like as a king going into the future, and hopefully, he's picked up a lot of things from his mother. I think a lot of people are looking towards that as well as something to kind of base his new reign off of, because she was so widely and universally loved and respected. Now, I honestly, up until very recently, didn't know anything about the controversy surrounding, I believe, Charles' previous marriage, his ex-wife, Diana. I didn't know anything about any of that. So somehow that completely, I missed the ship on that. So I've had to catch up on some of that. I still don't know, a lot about that, but I'm hoping this video can give me a much, much better idea on what I can at least expect from King Charles as the new king. So with that, let's take a look.
Britain has a new king. Charles III will now lead the world's most famous monarchy.
Yeah.
And arguably, its most successful.
Wow, this is really dramatic. Oh my goodness. But it's that serious, isn't it? It really is by far the world's most famous monarchy.
Queen Elizabeth II transformed Britain's royal family and earned a firm place in the nation's heart.
Yeah.
The new king has an extraordinarily large pair of shoes to fill.
I was just about to comment on that. You can't overlook that fact that King Charles just so happens to be following up one of the most beloved people ever. I mean, that's pretty wild, right?
It'll be a very, very difficult job.
But we'll survive. It's all in the breeding,
The world is already looking at Charles.
Yeah.
The longest-serving heir apparent in British history, and the oldest British king to assume the throne.
Man, it's still it's still kind of crazy to think that now we have a king, and I cannot overlook the fact that Charles, as the narrator just said, has been the heir apparent for a long time. So I can only imagine, in a sense, he's been built for this day, for lack of a better way to say it. He has been knowing this day would come, and now it has come, and I imagine he's been preparing and has been prepared accordingly, basically since birth, right?
How will he lead a successful modern monarchy?
Charles has to do two things. He has to keep his family together, and he has to keep the dignity of the monarchy burnished.
Yeah.
We've seen Charles enough as heir apparent to know that he is going to do some things differently when he becomes king.
Okay. That's exactly what I'm talking about. From those who feel like they have seen enough out of Charles up until now, they probably have a reasonable idea of who he is as a person and the things he's gonna do differently. I imagine, as far as the monarchy goes, there's only so much you can do differently, I imagine. I learned a lot more about what exactly the monarchy does in the modern day as far as like actual policy making, not that much, but there's still many, many, many duties that they have. So he still is in a position to make a massive influence on the Commonwealth, the UK, and the world at large.
The greatest book written on the monarchy, still the greatest book written on the monarchy, is a book written by a former editor of The Economist called Walter Bagehot. And the book was called The English Constitution. It came out in a fortnightly magazine in 1865. And the essential point that Bagehot makes in that is that Britain is divided between two sets of institutions. The efficient institutions, which do the work of government, and dignified institutions. And the most important of those dignified institutions is the monarchy.
Right. This is something that confuses a lot of Americans. A lot of Americans have the immediate attitude of, oh, royalty is dumb. It's stupid. I don't know why it would exist in the modern day. Many Americans, when you ask them about it, are like, I don't get it. I don't. But I feel like I'm in a better position knowing a bit more, been learning things that I understand exactly what they're talking about right now, as there's the parliament, there's the government sort of policy making part, and then there's the royalty. And they serve different functions which overlap a tiny bit based on some traditions and whatnot. But a lot of Americans really struggle with even understanding the role and purpose of royalty, since America's never had it. So that isn't all that surprising, right?
Generations of British monarchs have studied Bagehot's writings. His influence has even made its way into Netflix's hit show, The Crown.
There are two elements of the Constitution, wrote Walter Bagehot in 1867.
Bagehot still contains lessons for Charles today, like the importance of religion for the British monarch.
I never really thought about that. See, there's all sorts of little details like this that I am still not aware of, such as if there's a religious aspect to the English monarchy that still is important today.
In 1956, a third of the British public professed the belief that the Queen had been specially chosen by God.
Wow.
Almost 70 years later, being accepted as a monarch in Britain isn't quite so easy.
Britain's population is wildly different now to when Charles's mother came to the throne.
I mean, I think I've mentioned this many times at this point, but Charles also has this exact sort of hill to climb, in the sense that his mother was queen for 70 years. Multiple generations of people's family have been born. People's attitudes have changed and evolved in 70 years. So there's a massive difference now in public perception of what his role should be, whether he should be praised, what he should be praised for, and his duties. Just so many things have changed, and that's just the world moving on.
Britain was a kind of a stodgier place. It ate 5 times more cabbage when Elizabeth came to the throne than it does now. It's much more international, it's much less white than it used to be, and it's much less religious. So Charles has to appeal to everyone in Britain, and that is a very different Britain to the one that his mother took over.
Exactly. It's a very different Britain than the one Elizabeth took over. Exactly.
Charles's coronation will be a civic ceremony, but also a religious one. As king, he's now head of the Church of England, the country's state church.
Oh, I didn't realize that was like a formal position or title, head of the church. Interesting.
As heir, Charles made a point of supporting a range of different faiths. He visited places of worship, like his mother did, and he did more. Openly learning from other religious texts.
Like other sacred texts.
That's a good move. That's a really good move to accommodate the world's kind of globalization, the increase in diversity of the population of the UK, lots of religions. Charles going out of his way to acknowledge that, learn about it. Very good.
The Quran offers some profound and perceptive understanding.
And now he has a new title.
Charles is now a defender of the faith, and Monarch is the defender of the Anglican Church. Now, Charles, at one point, relatively radically said that he wanted to be known as defender of faith. In other words, defender of religious belief in general, as opposed to of Anglicanism.
I like that. I mean, he's already been put in sort of call it an awkward position where when you're the king of so many nations in the UK and lots of other influence as far as the Commonwealth goes, there's going to be so many religions and faiths involved that him referring to himself as a protector of faiths is probably a good move, right?
The fact that Charles even considered describing himself as defender of faith is a clear sign that he intends to be an inclusive monarch and one who is conscious of the great variety of the nation over which he is going to be ruling.
Yes.
Charles may not go so far as becoming Britain's first official interfaith king, but he is likely to continue the strong support he showed for other faiths as a prince.
Okay.
Spiritual leadership isn't Charles's only new responsibility. He's taken over as head of a large family, and with big families can come division.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Don't get me started on this. This is probably the part. There's so much like official business and stuff to learn about royalty, and then it's like it's the family tree and the sort of the drama that confuses me the most. Of course, that's the part that confuses me. I can't keep up with all this.
Families fall out, families disagree, and that's certainly true of our current royal family. But I think for all of the personality clashes, the Queen was respected by the various members of that family. And
Right, wow, that's a good point. I never thought of it like that. The king, well, let's talk about the Queen Elizabeth. Just being her, she was really good at just being this person that a large part of the royal family could collectively love and agree that they can all get along. I don't know if King Charles is going to be able to slip right into those same shoes and be this mediator for the family. It's literally like a family, keeping a family like together and happy is something every family on earth has to deal with, and the royal family is no different.
She tried to hold it together. I think the new king will find it difficult to be as unifying a force as his mother. Keeping the family together will be very difficult, particularly because of his relationship with his youngest son.
Falling out.
Oh, what's Charles' relationship with his younger son? Would that be Harry? And Meghan? Because of the controversy that I don't really understand, but I know exists, something like that. So there is somewhat of a rift between Charles and Harry, if I'm correct.
Is one thing, but wayward royals have tested the public's patience and risked bringing the idea of monarchy itself into disrepute. Elizabeth's popularity enabled her family to weather repeated scandals with little questioning of the concept of royal rule. Even political critics weren't immune to her charms.
Many, I would say most Australian Republicans are Elizabethans as well.
Prime Minister,
But Charles isn't as popular as his mother.
A very good measure.
Yeah, funny to think of this in terms of like almost politicians, celebrities, like popularity with the media is a very real, more real now than ever before. Being on the right side of the media's portrayal of you can make or break your image. It's almost like a politician type thing going on now. Interesting.
Of just how popular Elizabeth was the fact that we basically have no Republican movement in this country. I think Charles will be less successful than his mother in rallying opinion. It will be difficult for Charles to be able to do that. Elizabeth could do it because she'd been there for so long and because she did her job with consummate skill. Charles is a more controversial figure. He's got more pronounced opinions on things, and he has, had a difficult training, his marriage to Diana.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the stuff. This is the level of detail I need to know that Charles is opinionated, has had controversies. He's been in the public eye. The public knows all of this. This is all going to shape the way that he's accepted, if you will, and the way that he runs things. So this is good stuff for me. This is interesting.
That was an exceptionally controversial one.
And
Right, Diana was controversial. Camilla, if I'm correct.
Difficult trainings. His marriage to Diana was an exceptionally controversial one.
And I suppose in love.
Of course.
Whatever in love means.
So it'll take time for him to earn the right to get people to say that I may not be a monarchist, but I'm a supporter of the new king.
Okay.
With Charles as king, people may be less forgiving when the next scandal hits. But Charles has plans to save the monarchy from itself.
I'm pretty sure that the new king
What?
thinks that he needs to slim down the monarchy. I think that he has been very embarrassed about the behaviour of some members of the family, and indeed by his own youthful behaviour. And I think also he's quite conscious of the issue of value for money, that the public is willing to tolerate.
Wow. Whoa. Interesting. Wow. Does he really hold the opinion that he should slim down the monarchy? Like, reduce it? Reduce the members? Or its impact or influence? And he's aware that the public can only handle watching super rich, privileged individuals do like dramatic, controversial stuff without saying, hey, why are we worshiping these people who are acting a certain way and they're in such a high privileged position? He understands people are going to start thinking that, as is human nature, and is probably appropriate between you and me. They're falling under the judgment of people, of the common people, as they should. Because I imagine at the end of the day, in a sense, most people would think they're pretty much there to serve people, serve their nation. That's their duty. And they have to kind of live up to that standard. And Charles is aware of that, which is good.
Britain currently has 7 senior working royals, funded by profits from the Crown estate to attend engagements for the Crown.
Yeah, this is what he's talking about, how... And they're calculating all the money right now as I pause it, but there's a lot of money involved in paying the royal family, and people have to wonder, like, is this worth it? Is it fair? Is this a trade-off we're willing to be okay with?
In 2021, the royal family cost British taxpayers £86.3 million.
Wow.
A slimmed-down royal family would mean a smaller wage bill and leave less room for scandal.
Yep.
There are constant leaks from Clarence House that Charles is going to pursue a more slimmed-down royal family. In Sweden, the royal family has been drastically slimmed down, pretty much just to the heir and the spare. And there are hints that this is exactly what Charles is going to do here.
Wait, does that mean that members of the royal family would literally not receive salaries, like payment from government taxes and from like traditional royal roles would be eliminated? Like quite literally reducing the responsibilities and the perks of being members of royalty? That's very interesting that a member of royalty would be, Charles, the king, would be willing to do that. And actually really respect that and admire that, being that self-aware. Now, he's gotten to live a lifetime of benefiting from all the perks that come with being the next in line to the throne and being royalty. So he's already kind of gotten his due. He's gotten his fair share of the pie already. He's happy. So maybe it is kind of easy for him to be like, you know what, I'm going to slim down the royal family now that I've already gotten everything that comes with it. So it's really nothing on him. So in that sense, maybe it's quite easy for him to make a decision like this.
Watching the bottom line might endear Charles to a nation of shopkeepers, but time will tell how thrifty a man who allegedly has a valet iron his shoelaces can really be.
Oh, no. He has someone iron his shoelaces? Oh my... I mean, that's the kind of thing Americans think of. When they think of royalty, they think of stuff like that. Super pampered, super privileged people who were born into positions that, you know, they didn't have any control over that. I understand that. So that's why I place such a high importance on, if you're born into the royal family, you gotta do your darndest to serve the people. Do a good job. Be respectable, you know, because, man, there's a couple billion other people who didn't get born into your position.
Charles may have a household full of help, but being king has its restrictions as well.
The received wisdom is that the modern monarch has to be inscrutable. Charles has come very close to looking like he's doing too much already.
The modern monarch has to be what? Agreeable? Or what was that word?
The received wisdom is that the modern monarch has to be inscrutable.
Inscrutable. Whoa! Inscrutable. I gotta look that up. That's a word right there. Impossible to understand or interpret? Huh? The monarch... Is she using this word correctly? Is she using this correctly? I don't know if that sentence made sense. I thought it kind of did, and that I just didn't know the word, but I think I get what she's saying.
The received wisdom is that the modern monarch has to be inscrutable. Charles has come very close to looking like he's doing too much already.
As Prince of Wales, Charles often spoke his mind.
I think she's saying the monarch has to be unbiased and kind of go with the will of the nation and what's best for the UK, and not be so opinionated and be like, hey, this is what I want kind of attitude. I think that's what we're getting at here.
Famously passing judgment on subjects from farming to architecture. Raising more than a few eyebrows.
Oh.
What is proposed seems to me like a monstrous carbuncle on the face of a much-loved and elegant friend.
He's even been accused of meddling in politics, most notoriously in the infamous Black Spider memos, a series of letters he wrote to government ministers.
Wow.
In them, he expressed views on political policy that some interpreted as an attempt to influence Westminster.
Oh, wow. This is the stuff. This is the stuff. This is what I wanted. This is what I'm here for. This is the tea, as they say, the info. So Charles has a history of being opinionated, possibly trying to influence politicians, being involved in numerous scandals. Oh, interesting relationships within the royal family. So there's quite a bit of controversy surrounding Charles as king, I would imagine. It's just that I would think people in the UK are so familiar with him and so aware of all this that they almost know that this is something that comes along with him being king. Whereas for me, I'm hearing this for the first time. I'm just now reacting like this is new news. Because for me it is. I got to get the whole scoop all at once. Very interesting. Very, very. I can see why they make television shows about this, by the way, in America. TV shows based on this. You can't make this up. It's actually pretty interesting.
The monarch's job is to unite the country. Queen Elizabeth II was careful never to say anything controversial in public, or get caught expressing political views in private.
Yeah, that's amazing, to go an entire career as queen with that accomplishment. I think that's one of the reasons she's so respected. She knew the role as queen, and she was so good at it. And she controlled herself and knew the limitations and the appropriate behavior of what the queen should do for the nation. And now people are probably a little worried about King Charles and how exactly he's going to interpret his role as king.
It's a role Charles hasn't always played.
Fundamentally, they've got to be like a royal mum to the nation.
Yeah.
They can put heart in the politicians when they come to talk to them, but they can't actually tell you what to do.
That is such a perfect way of putting it. Because so many people actually thought of Elizabeth as a mother figure. She was like a mom to the nation. That is exactly right.
Because just as it annoys you...
Something tells me Charles is not looked at as the sweet dad or grandpa of the nation. That's what I'm seeing here, if I'm interpreting it right.
When your mother tells you what to do, it's not just annoying, but potentially, for the royal family, disastrous.
If Charles were to take his right to warn too far, it could trigger a constitutional crisis.
Whoa.
It's a scenario that's captured the public imagination, even inspiring a popular play and film.
Empowered by ancient decree, I do use my royal prerogative to dissolve the Parliament at once.
This is a fictional scenario,
Whoa.
but it's based on a grain of truth.
Really? Is this actually... This is very dramatic. Oh my gosh. But this is a slight possibility?
Charles's apparent eagerness to speak his mind in public.
Organic farming delivers the highest quality, best tasting food, produced without artificial chemicals or genetic modification.
Okay.
If, despite a warning from the Prime Minister...
I mean, is he not even supposed to comment on organically grown food and farming? Is that even out of bounds of what a respectable, non-biased monarch should do?
Given in the weekly audience, Charles, as king, continued to voice opinions publicly on...
Maybe just the fact that he's commenting on something that would influence the economy and is a big industry is just considered like too much, like no need to even comment on whether you like or don't like certain businesses' practices. Maybe that's the school of thought here.
Matters of political controversy. Then I would expect the next step might be for the Prime Minister to write to the monarch, reminding him of his constitutional duties as sovereign. And in effect, having given an oral warning, this would now be a written warning. And
What? Is he serious? Is this something that could happen? Oh my. I feel like if the Prime Minister wrote a letter to the king reminding him of his duties, like, Mr. King, just in case you've forgotten what is expected of you, I don't feel like that would go over well at all, right? I don't know. Has that ever been done?
it would be a very serious next step.
Yeah.
It's happened before. In 1912, Herbert Henry Asquith, the Prime Minister, was forced to write a letter to George V telling him to keep his opinions to himself.
What?
On that occasion, the monarch listened.
Oh, the monarch listened. Oh my gosh, this is all so touchy, isn't it? You're dealing with a lot of people in really powerful, influential positions. There's probably some ego involved. We're only human. But, very interesting stuff here.
So long as the monarch expresses any concerns that they might have in private to the Prime Minister, that's not crossing any political or constitutional boundary. It's only when the monarch begins to express opinions publicly on matters of political controversy that might cause the government difficulty that...
That's a really good distinction for me to hear again, because I had kind of forgotten about that. That detail is so important. The monarch is perfectly free to express some opinion, to express things to, say, the Prime Minister, but it's to be private. They're not a voice, they're not a politician, they're not there to speak their opinion in a microphone for the world at large to hear. Especially now, in the modern day, where they quite literally, thanks to the internet, could communicate with everyone in the world instantaneously, all at once, on anything they want. So it's quite touchy, and that's a very real possibility. So, yeah, I was just saying, very, very nice to be reminded, because I hadn't even really thought of it like that, how crucial that detail is.
That behavior becomes unacceptable.
Wow.
But there are signs that Charles is ready to adapt to the demands of his new role.
Okay.
I think he's less of a wild card now than he was. He is married.
Oh, was he considered a wild card? At one point, was it really to that point where Charles was just like, I don't know what he's gonna do next. It was that like dramatic and controversial.
Married to a woman he loves. He's been training for this job for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And he has a strong set of opinions in the background, but an enormous willingness to do the right thing to keep this institution thriving.
Okay.
In
That's
2018, good. Charles told a BBC documentary that the idea of him continuing to meddle was complete nonsense.
Okay.
There may be a new face on the throne, but familiarity will also be a hallmark of Charles's reign.
I think, like all these things, there's a great need for cool heads.
King Charles III is the continuation of a tradition, an unbroken form of government going back nearly 400 years, since the previous Charles was on the throne. Under British law, the monarch never dies. As one reign ends, the next monarch's reign instantly begins. As Charles knows, probably better than most, when it comes to the British monarchy.
Oh, I've never seen him as a young man like this. Man, he's been around as 70 years, I'll say it again. It's crazy. Man, I certainly haven't experienced the life of Charles even for as long as I've been alive. So it feels like I'm meeting him for the first time now, which is totally different than the experience of people in the UK. A lot of Americans are just hearing about this new king, King Charles, this new person to us. It's all very new. We've never heard of him. We don't know what he's all about. So I feel like I'm kind of representative of the feelings and attitudes of a lot of Americans who are probably just have no idea what's going to happen from here. Although apparently that that sentiment is shared a little bit with some people in the United Kingdom.
Continuity is as important as change. Thanks for watching.
Wow, that was good. That was very interesting. That was by The Economist. I liked that. I will give that a like. I enjoyed that very much. Man, it's like I said, this is almost like a riveting like television show. This is fascinating. This is exciting. I mean, if it wasn't such high stakes and it wasn't so real and of high consequence, you'd almost find it entertaining. I mean, it is a little bit from my point of view in the United States. It is entertaining. I can say that because it does not really affect me at the end of the day. But I do, recognize the incredibly substantial importance of all of this. Make no mistake, I do understand that. Which is why I do enjoy learning about all these little details of stuff that I'm really just trying to catch up on, because it's been around and I just haven't known about it. But especially since everything is changing now, there's a new king, and if I'm ever going to learn about this, now's a good time, right? Anyway, I very much enjoyed that. So, and if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this reaction, feel free to give it a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to the UK, Great Britain, culture, things there, stuff I have never seen ever before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching and see you next time.